Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we are ranking all of Coldplay's studio albums from worst to best as part of a video series I like to call Graded. Coming off the heels of their 8th studio album, Everyday Life, I thought that this would be a perfect time to bookmark my thoughts on Coldplay because they've been one of my favorite bands over the years, actually for as long as I can remember. Why I think Coldplay is so memorable really boils down to a couple of reasons. One being the lyrics. A lot of nostalgia and sentimental value to their lyrics. A lot of their songs look back and reflect on the past. And two, musically, which can also be broken down into two components. One being the simple songwriting, simple chord progressions, that's what they're known for, as well as anthemic qualities. We can't forget that. Plus, it doesn't hurt to be highly influential when it comes to Britpop, even if they are considered post-era Britpop after the likes of Oasis. Compared to their contemporaries before them, Coldplay have remained relevant in 2019. They've had a career that has spanned over a couple of decades now, and sure, they aren't as influential or innovative with their sound compared to their first few records. Despite that, they still have remained a staple in the industry and a household name when it comes to pop culture and memes. Never forget that Clocks Turtle meme, man. Alright, so how this video is going to work is I'm going to give a mini review on each Coldplay album, and I'm going to award a school letter grade to each of them based on how well I think it aided in a number of categories for the band. Their success, style and image, commercial viability, as well as discussing context, fan favorite songs, and of course, why I enjoy each Coldplay album. Because let's face it, Coldplay, I don't think they have any terrible record under their belts at this point, and this letter grade thing, I also have to kind of give a disclaimer with it. So the grade that I give here isn't necessarily the same that I would rate the album numerically within the context of the entire landscape of music in the past 20 years or so. No, this video is meant to be more contained than that, as I'm attempting to compare Coldplay albums relatively to one another. Of course, if I give a C or a B, it doesn't mean that Coldplay is failing my expectations. They're really their only competition here, and with that being said, each album is special in its own way, and yeah, I know I'm fangirling at this point, so let's dive into my least favorite Coldplay album at number 8. A Head Full of Dreams came out in 2015. It followed up Coldplay's 2014 record, Ghost Stories. Key context there is that this album is following up something that was very melancholic, as we livened up the songs here, a lot brighter, happier, and cheerful. Some more time had passed since Chris Martin's relationship ended with Gwyneth Paltrow. Of course, he is still affected on this album, and he's consumed by this lost love as he wrote the song Everglow. Everglow is definitely one of my favorite tracks on here, along with Up and Up, which offers that anthemic and unifying sound. Adventure of a Lifetime is instantly catchy. Amazing Day is perfect for the prom and any other kind of slow dancing events. And even the title track offers some danceable, groovy vibes to it. Moving past that though, this is an album that inserts some junctions along the way with a couple speeches from Barack Obama, and we have some chirps of birds and nature. This outdoor kind of vibe that's going on for this album is heard all the way throughout. The downside to A Head Full of Dreams, though, in my opinion, is the Beyonce collaboration on Hymn for the Weekend, which I would have to say is my least favorite Coldplay song. I think it's actually downright awful. Somehow even lower quality than Princess of China, but if I can look past that, the other parts of this album I don't really enjoy as much. Kind of ruined by the heavy bass that's coming from a lot of the songs. It muddies the mix, it's ugly sounding, and I don't like a lot of the kick pedals used on the drums here, as well as the bass tones, especially on Fun and Birds. In terms of grading A Head Full of Dreams, I can't be too harsh though. It is a straightforward pop album that should have happened and had to happen after such a somber and depressive album with Ghost Stories. Although the happy and bright atmosphere can only do so much, I feel like it is kind of a safe and sanitary attempt at appealing to a wider audience at times. Don't get me wrong, I could see the potential with A Head Full of Dreams, but I don't think the execution was there. I would give this a rating of D+, and yeah, that's a harsh score, but remember, I like every Coldplay album. Moving on to number 7, we have Mylo Xyloto. Mylo Xyloto came out in 2011. It is regarded as Coldplay's sellout to electronic and full-out pop. However, as many people criticize this album, I kind of gotta stick up for it just because I feel like some tracks are a pretty good blend of pop and rock that has aged well over time. Certainly a re-listen to Mylo is nostalgic like their early albums, and that's definitely helped out by the fun and higher, cleaner quality production. And yeah, fans of the older discography from Coldplay do have a strong case when it comes to the earlier albums of their discography being stronger. If we distill Mylo Xyloto down to Princess of China and nothing else but its bombastic, screeching synthesizers and all that noise. But if we are experimenting here, you gotta expect that after so many albums, a band is going to move on and evolve and do something different. So in the grand scheme of things, I guess what I'm saying is that Coldplay on Mylo Xyloto, they're absolutely allowed to experiment. I can tolerate Princess of China if that means that Coldplay is continually changing. Besides, who would want to listen to Coldplay if they wrote the same song over and over again, like the same love song, the same ballad? That being said, the attempt at party anthems, I'm not saying it's the greatest thing that Coldplay has ever done. I'm just saying, cut them some slack. Alright, negatives aside on Mylo Xyloto, my favorite song, which could possibly be my favorite Coldplay song, is on here, and it's called Every Teardrop is a Waterfall. The ultimate nostalgia trip. We have synergy from the accompanying band members. We have watery guitar tones provided by Johnny Buckland. We have pounding drums by Will Champion and sliding bass lines from Guy Berryman. Elsewhere, we can't forget about Paradise, Charlie Brown, and Hurts Like Heaven. These are tracks that are extremely uplifting and will always put you in a good mood. This is an album that has a lot of single power to it, some of the best singles in the Coldplay discography right here. To change that up though, we do have Us Against the World, which does counteract and balance out the sheer power of singles. It slows things down quite literally in the lyrics, but also strings together a solid acoustic ballad. Now, mentioning strings, as I playfully did there, the final string of tracks on Mylo Xyloto are unfortunately the weakest of Coldplay's library. I think this album goes up in flames with the song Up in Flames. It goes up with the Birds too, but man, don't let it break your heart though, hopefully. For ending this record so poorly, I can't see myself giving this any higher than a C, but it's definitely not as bad as many critics passed this off as in 2011. At number 6, we have X and Y. This record dropped back in 2005. We have plenty of swirling and spacey synthesizers on a good majority of the songs here, including Talk, Fix You, and White Shadows. Lyrically, it's a release that focuses on comforting someone who is losing themselves in a state of turmoil. Square One opens up this record very well, while also opening up the hopeless storyline of this character who has gone through an emotional challenge or hardship. So of course, many of the songs play off that, and to plenty of success. I guess the only downside for this record for me is how patronizing the lyrics can be. Obviously, it can be interpreted in a couple of ways. One, either comforting, or two, condescending. I generally see it as genuine, the lyrics on here, but I can't argue with someone else if they do feel like these lyrics are just speaking down to someone. Musically though, this is a solid record. It is fantastic. We have the steadiest and some of the best drumming from Will Champion, so urgent and ideal when you want to capture your audience's attention. We always have that great debate between the song's speed of sound versus clocks. Which one do you prefer? Similar sounding piano lines, I guess that's why so many fans are split on it. I would personally give it to clocks, but Back to X and Y though, I feel like it is an influential album for some artists, especially Imagine Dragons. I hear a little bit of their sound based on the track A Message. But overall, with X and Y, some of my favorite tracks include Low, Till Kingdom Come, Square One, and Fix You. I'm feeling like this is an average Coldplay album with plenty of highlights. I'm feeling a B with X and Y. Now moving on to number 5, we have Ghost Stories. Coldplay's former superior 2010s album is what I like to call Ghost Stories. By now you can tell that I've placed Everyday Life above this album, so that is now championed the best 2010s album from Coldplay. But man, Ghost Stories, it's so underrated. You do not want this to fly under your radar. Why I praise it so much, I think it boils down to the time period that this was released. 2014 was a dark time for the group members of Coldplay, especially Chris Martin, who had recently divorced with Gwyneth Paltrow. As a result, many of the songs on this album are riddled with dejected and depressive moods. Ghost Stories has always been a breakup album that has a sad and lingering atmosphere to it. It might be best to listen only when you're disappointed, but it doesn't stop Coldplay from writing one of their perkiest and best songs ever made, Magic. I think it has to be between Magic and Every Teardrop as my favorite Coldplay song. Elsewhere on Ghost Stories, we have the song Midnight, which is a drenched out electronic track that offers a highlight on this album. We also get to hear a collaboration with Avicii on A Sky Full of Stars. This is a song that has a simplistic chord structure, a typical Coldplay formula at this point. I think it nails it here. This is like the best representation. From the ruminating and dreary Always in My Head to the extremely underrated song Ink to the hopeful Oh, I think Ghost Stories is often an overlooked and underappreciated Coldplay album. Pretty ambitious and tackling electronica at the same time. I'm feeling a B+ on Ghost Stories. Now at number 4, we have Everyday Life. The latest Coldplay album is emotional, it is adventurous, it's grounded, it's worldly, and it shows a lot of heart on the sleeve. I feel like this is the record that brought Coldplay back down to earth, both sonically and lyrically. A lot of politically charged themes are on this record, including gun control, police brutality, and fear of terrorism. I think there's a lot of universality to the messages on this record. It's often reflected in the multiple languages that are spoken here. Contributing to this all-encompassing human experience of this album, I think I like it a lot because it feels a bit rougher around the edges. Tracks like Wonder of the World, Power of the People, and Guns, they almost have this demo quality to them. The former song is actually a voice memo, and it is surprising to have a demo that is sounding pretty good with its musical ideas. I think this entire album actually has pretty solid ideas, and it rounds things out very nicely when we have a front and a back half, technically a double album. Disc 1 is way more experimental for Coldplay than I would usually give them credit for. Disc 2 is definitely meant for the pop fan looking for those party anthems a bit more. Orphans, at least, as that is a fun excursion. And yeah, I have to say it, Everyday Life is Coldplay's best album of the decade. Ghost Stories, it is a close competitor. Either way, I'm feeling an A- on Everyday Life. Moving closer to number 1, at number 3, we have Parachutes. The year of 2000 saw the turn of a century and millennium, but it also saw the debut album from Coldplay, and what a debut it was. The young and upcoming band members from London, England were fresh out of school and looking to make a splash in the music scene. It actually took them 3 times to choose a group name. Previously, they were known as the Pectorals and Starfish before they signed to the major label of Parlophone in the late 90s. The outcome of their debut record was a dazzling introduction to post-Britpop, one that has gems of songs like Yellow and Shiver, and lesser-known tracks like High Speed and Spies, but all songs are complete with crooning vocals, iconic melodies, and slick bass lines. Parachutes is a notable introduction to Coldplay, and it's one that certainly stuck the landing while leaving room to grow. I am feeling an A- on this one. The second best album always spoils the first one at the same time, and it's always a tough thing to spill, but yes, Viva La Vida, or Death and All His Friends, is the runner-up. This is the critical fourth album from Coldplay. It came out in 2008. It symbolizes a sonic and stylistic transition period for the band, going from their alt-rock anthem roots to injecting some more mainstream pop elements. Of course, it was only made for the mainstream because of the inescapable hit of Viva La Vida, and there are points on this record that are definitely meant to be more progressive, like Yes, or the other half of the title track, Death and All His Friends, but this is a dichotomous album that offers up some of Coldplay's most infectious melodies, and it's one that has a very enjoyable listening experience, especially in the late 2000s. We also can't forget about this awesome artwork that this album gave us too. So yeah, a lot of good things going for Viva La Vida. I am feeling an A on this. It was a tough choice. My favorite songs on this album would be Lost, Cemeteries of London, and Violet Hill. Yeah, as great as those songs are, as fantastic as they are, this record, it doesn't stand up to my number one. Just as I said, number one, the best Coldplay album in my hands right now. There's no disputing it. A Rush of Blood to the Head is Coldplay's greatest work offered to the universe. Just in case you aren't sold on that idea though, think back to how I said Viva La Vida was a critical transition album for Coldplay. Yes, it foreshadowed and influenced many of Coldplay records after, but I do firmly believe that A Rush of Blood to the Head is the mastery of what piano ballads and alternative rock sounded like in the 2000s. Simply put, it is genre and decade defining. Honestly, between A Rush of Blood to the Head and The Killers' Hot Fuss, I think they are among some of the most recognizable and established rock albums of the 21st century. More specifically about Coldplay's record here, because we don't want to take away their greatness. A Rush of Blood to the Head is an excellent blend of piano ballads and introspective love songs. It's Coldplay's best use and performance of piano on any of their albums, I believe, which, yeah, you have to admit, piano is the most prevalent and salient instrument for Coldplay. The performances everywhere on this album are actually incredible. We have soulful crooning from Chris Martin on the track Green Eyes and falsettos on Warning Sign. Even within songs, Coldplay proves that they can tug on the listener's heartstrings as they shift focus from the abrasive and more aggressive guitar tones from Johnny, and also draw attention to the simple yet effective piano playing from Chris Martin. To put the nail in the coffin, I guess my final reason why A Rush of Blood to the Head is Coldplay's greatest work is just how refreshing it is to listen to, even years and years of listening to it. Politic, the intro, the first song that's on this album, sounds completely different than really anything that they've done. It was especially a big contrast to their debut album. Such a forceful song to kick off the record, and it was just saying, hey, yo, Coldplay, they aren't going to settle for that sophomore slump. And then, of course, you have the softer ballads too, so I guess that's another reason that this album is great. So I'm adding on to it as we go, but The Scientist, fantastic. My favorite songs on this album overall have to be Clocks, Green Eyes, God Put a Smile Upon Your Face, also Amsterdam, which is heavily underrated. With all that being said, I am feeling an A+. I feel like this is the iconic Coldplay album, and it is iconic for a good reason for the 2000s as well. Looking to the future for Coldplay, it's always an exciting time to see what they'll put out next. They always have that rumor out there that, oh, are they going to break up? Ghost Stories was our last album. Oh, wait, no, A Head Full of Dreams was our last album. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sound off down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of Coldplay as a band, as an artist. Tell me how you rank these albums. Tell me some of your favorite Coldplay songs too. While you're at it, leave a like, subscribe if you're new in town. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a rockin' day.